You know, those little habits people have, things we usually just call quirks. Well, what if they're not just quirks at all? What if they're actually quiet signals from our bodies, telling a story about something much, much deeper? Today, we're going to decode those signals. Okay, let's just jump right in with a classic example. Picture it. You're in a coffee shop, a restaurant, anywhere. Ever notice that person who always picks the seat against the wall facing the door? It might look like they're just people watching, but for a lot of folks, that's a deeply ingrained, unconscious survival strategy. And that habit, well, it's just one piece of a much larger puzzle. It's part of a whole pattern of behaviors, these subtle, almost invisible ways people adapt. Let's take a closer look at some of these unseen struggles. And the crazy thing is, once you start looking, you see them everywhere. The person who's constantly saying sorry, just for existing. The friend who, without even thinking, has clocked every single exit in the room. Or that flinch, when a door slams or someone moves just a little too fast. These aren't character flaws. Not at all. They are highly developed survival skills. The body is just trying to make sure it never, ever gets caught by surprise again. So what is going on here? What's the root cause? To get that, we have to go a little deeper than just the habits themselves and look at the actual clinical framework. We're not just talking about any kind of trauma, we're talking about something specific called complex trauma. Now, most of us have heard of PTSD, right? That's usually linked to a single, big, terrifying event, a car crash, combat, something like that. But complex PTSD, or CPTSD, that's different. It comes from situations that are ongoing, where you feel trapped over a long period of time. Think long-term abuse or neglect. The trauma isn't just one moment, it's the entire environment. And that distinction is everything, because the brain and the body have to adapt in a totally different way when the threat is chronic. And this quote from Dr. Judith Lewis Herman just hits the nail on the head. She's a total pioneer in this field, and she points out that these survival adaptations often get mislabeled as personality problems. But she reframes it so powerfully. They are normal reactions to abnormal situations. Let me say that again. The behavior isn't the problem. At one point, it was the solution. Okay, so if these are survival responses, what's actually happening inside our bodies to create them? This is where we get to the real heart of it, the deep down biological reason our bodies learn to stay on high alert. It really all comes down to your body's built-in threat detector. All right, this leads us to a really game-changing idea called the polyvagal theory. I know, it sounds super complicated, but stick with me because it's an incredibly useful way to understand our nervous system. Basically, Dr. Stephen Porges figured out that we don't just have one response to stress, we have three, and they're stacked on top of each other, kind of like a ladder. Let's make it super simple. Think of it as a traffic light. At the top, you've got the green light. This is your happy place. You feel safe, connected, social, you can rest, you can digest your food, you can chill. But if your brain senses danger, bam, you drop down to the yellow light. This is the famous fight or flight response. Your body gets flooded with adrenaline, ready for action. But what happens if you can't fight and you can't run? You drop all the way to the bottom. Red light. This is shutdown. It's our oldest, most primitive defense mechanism. We freeze, we go numb, we disappear inside ourselves. And listen, while the traffic light is a simple way to think about it, this is all grounded in some pretty heavy neuroscience. This diagram here shows the actual distinct neural pathways that Dr. Porges mapped out. Our survival ladder is a real biological system that's constantly and unconsciously scanning for signs of danger. And here is where it all comes together. For someone who's lived through complex trauma, that survival ladder gets all out of whack. Their nervous system basically learns that the world isn't safe, so it gets stuck in the yellow or red zones. That internal threat detector becomes, well, hypersensitive. And that's why someone might flinch at a dropped glass or always need to face the door. Their body is still living in a state of high alert for a danger that, hopefully, is long gone. So if the body can learn these incredibly powerful threat responses, here's the billion-dollar question. Can it unlearn them? Can it learn what it feels like to be safe again? And the research is so clear and so hopeful on this. The answer is yes, it absolutely can. Let's talk about that path forward. Dr. Judith Herman gives us this incredible roadmap for recovery in 3 stages. And I want you to notice what comes first. Before anything else, before talking about the past, before trying to move on, is establishing safety. You just can't do the other work if you don't feel safe right here, right now. It is the absolute foundation for all healing. So what does that even mean, establishing safety? Well, it's not some vague idea. It's about taking real, concrete steps. It means looking at your life and figuring out what's threatening your stability. It can mean making the gut-wrenching decision to leave unsafe relationships. It's about finding practical support. And, this is so important, building a connection with at least one safe person, whether that's a therapist or a trusted friend, who can be like a bridge back to feeling secure. It's all about teaching that haywire nervous system how to climb back up the ladder to that calm, green zone. Which really brings us to the big takeaway here. We've seen that the human body is an amazing learner. It learns how to adapt, how to survive, how to protect itself against incredible odds. So, if all these powerful, painful survival responses are, at their core, learned, doesn't it stand to reason that a feeling of safety, of calm, of connection can be learned too? It's not about trying to forget the past. It's about teaching the body in the present that the war is finally over.